Hello, YouTubers. This is X Squared Radio coming to you live. We're going to go live in about 1 minute to the studio, so just hang in there. I want to make sure everything was working smoothly on the YouTube. Good to see you out there. Don't forget to use the YouTube chat. It is live as well. You'll be able to see it on the screen as well, and I appreciate you being here tonight. We have about 45 seconds to go, and then we'll bring it on. It's been a heck of a week, hasn't it? Man, so much news. Wow, I don't even know where to start. And I think Monday, Tuesday, twice on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday we had interviews. So it was a really, really busy week. Lots of stuff going on around there in the world. We're going to try and stay away from most of the negative stuff and concentrate mostly on the positive stuff, so you'll have a good experience tonight. But just hang in there. We got about 9 seconds, and then I'm going to dial it up. Here we go. Let's see what happens. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will call.
From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station. Hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed in this station are of those who make them.
Be right back.
If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
A hero's funeral, updating those plane accidents. I'm Evan Haining. The University of North Carolina at Charlotte student who died stopping a gunman on Tuesday is being buried with full military honors. 21-year-old Riley Howell, an Army ROTC cadet, tackled the shooter who had opened fire with a handgun inside a classroom of nearly 50 students. At his funeral today, a friend spoke about him.
From the beginning, I could see his love for others through the little things, like offering to carry the heaviest bag, or fighting for the right to cook us all dinner up at camp, which I was fine with. Because, as some of you know, he made some damn good food, especially his fried chicken.
19-year-old Ellis Reed Parlier was also killed. 4 students were injured, and suspected shooter Tristan Andrew Terrell has been charged with 2 counts of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. Well, the death toll from a Russian airliner that caught fire and made an emergency landing in Moscow is at least 41. Correspondent Frederick Pleitkin says officials in Russia have ordered a thorough investigation.
We saw the wreckage of that plane after the fire was finally put out, and you can see that the entire rear section, pretty much everything behind the engine, seems to be completely burned out. The tail fin seems to have completely been basically burned away.
Meantime, Bruce Landsberg with the NTSB says the military charter jet that slid off a Florida runway into a river had no prior accidents. All the passengers and crew survived, but their pets aboard the plane were not so lucky.
Navy has arranged to have some divers that are probably on scene right now, removing the pets from the forward cargo hold.
President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, is due to report to prison tomorrow. The 52-year-old Cohen will be housed in dorm-like accommodations at the facility's minimum security camp. Cohen, who once said he would take a bullet for Trump, was sentenced to 3 years. The prison is in Otisville, New York. I'm Evan Haining.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. Let's get right into it. First, my Religion of Peace report. In the last 7 days, the Religion of Peace conducted 30 attacks. In these 30 attacks, they killed 171 innocent people, injured 60 innocent people. There were no suicide blasts in the last week, and activity was restricted to only one country. In all the years that we've been monitoring, this is the least activity from the Religion of Peace, and we are so grateful. Thank you very much. In the news, in a sting operation that took months to gather evidence over a number of states, 82 child exploiters were arrested and 17 children were rescued. This is great news. These parents were exploiting toddlers in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and in the Carolinas. Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported. The investigation, dubbed Operation Southern Impact 3, targeted those who possess and distribute child pornography as well as those accused of exploiting children on the internet. The people arrested ranged in age from 20 to 70 and included a daycare administrator, a youth group leader, a firefighter, a former high school band director, and a military veteran. Now you know why we are so cautious, why we are so careful about who we choose as child leaders in our churches, in our youth organizations. Media Advisory, Operation Southern Impact 3, really led the way in reporting on this. Let's see. The sting included search warrant, executions, undercover operations, arrests, and sex offender compliance visits. Police executed 134 search warrants, spoke to 215 registered sex offenders, and seized more than 1,600 electronic devices. I can guarantee you on those devices, those 1,600 electronic devices, they got a lot more email addresses, a lot more ISP addresses, a lot more phone numbers, a lot more text messages, and this group of arrests is going to grow. Suspects were targeted based on cyber tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The majority of the arrests in Georgia involved the possession and distribution of child porn. A goal of the operation was to arrest persons who communicate with children online and then travel to meet them for the purpose of, well, we won't go into that. We don't cover that kind of stuff on this program. 4 of the people arrested in Georgia were already registered sex offenders, including one person who was charged in 2015 after a similar GBI operation. Just goes to show you that there is no rehabilitation for these people. Once you're in this, you're in it for life. That's why they go after the ones who are registered, the ones who are past offenders, because they continue to offend. They have to be watched. They have to be kept away from children. And probably more importantly, children have to be kept away from them. I know a lot of times people ask me, if I'm a homophobe or I'm a xenophobe, and I mean, the answer is no, I'm not. I don't have anything against anybody who wants to be who they want to be, love who they want to love. But when it comes to kids, we make an effort to keep them safe. Always too deep leadership, always supervision. And we tell our kids and our grandkids, anybody touches you inappropriately, you pick up the phone and call me. I don't care where I am. I'll come and pick you up. The idea is to keep these kids safe. These guys are sick, and if they probably had it done to them, and it's time to break the cycle. You do that by protecting the kids. All right, I want to give a little bit of a near-Earth object update. And you probably got an overdose of this when we were watching movies like Deep Impact and Armageddon. It was kind of wild how those movies came out back to back. It was like somebody was funding movies that were trying to make us aware of what would happen during and after an impact like this. Books like Lucifer's Hammer and other books that came out to try to prepare us for the post-apocalyptic conditions of a asteroid or a comet or a large meteorite impact. Well, NASA has been preparing for the arrival of a huge asteroid. They have nicknamed it the God of Chaos. On the 13th of April, 2029, people looking towards the sky will see a speck of light streaking across it, which will quickly get brighter and faster. It will be traveling so fast that it will cross the width of the moon in a single minute, and it will be bright as the stars in the sky. Scientists have named the rock Apophis after the Egyptian god of chaos. Apophis, I guess. The glowing speck will be a huge asteroid. It's 340 meters across. NASA's already preparing to watch it as it flies past Earth. The space agency said that it will fly far enough away as to be harmless at a distance of about 19,000 miles. Sorry, but that's like right over there, right? I mean, very close. Cosmologically speaking, that's too close. But that is as close as some of the spacecraft that fly past Earth. It is also close enough that researchers will be able to get an unprecedented look at the asteroid itself. They will be able to see the rock in sharp detail. Probably you will too if you have a good pair of binoculars and can follow it. It is very rare for asteroids of this size to go past Earth so close. Absolutely, it's rare. It's a big amount of space out there, and where these things come from, not on the plane of the planets that revolve around the sun, but kind of at an oblique angle to the flat plane of the planets that orbit around the sun. So it's sort of like hitting a bullet from the side with another bullet. It's not very easy to do, but coming close is rare. Scientists have seen smaller asteroids at closer distance, but something of such colossal size are fewer in number. The Apophis close approach in 2029 will be an incredible opportunity for science, said Marina Brozovic, a radar scientist at NASA's JPL in Pasadena, my old stomping grounds, who work on radar observations of near-Earth objects. We'll observe the asteroid with both optical and radar telescopes. With radar observations, we might be able to see the surface details that are only a few meters in size. Scientists meeting this week at the 2019 Planetary Defense Conference in College Park, Maryland, where they have also been role-playing a fictional collision with an asteroid, like I was saying. They've been discussing how to watch the asteroid and missions that could be sent out to meet it. Well, don't push it too much. It will be the first visible to the naked eye when it arrives in the night sky over the southern hemisphere, shooting across the east coast to the west coast of Australia. It'll make its way around the world, cross the Indian Ocean on its way to the U.S. Its closest approach will be over the Atlantic Ocean as the evening arrives in the U.S. Let's see here. Take a sip of my grapefruit juice here. Researchers now say that further working calculations show there is only a 1 in 100,000 chance the asteroid will hit Earth. But further work will be required to rule out future impacts, because these things kind of form an orbit once they leave the Oort cloud. They have a tendency to go around the sun a few times before they go out to space or crash into the sun. We already know that the close encounter with Earth will change Apophis' orbit, because we're going to tug on it a little bit. But our models show the close approach should change the way this asteroid spins, and it is possible that there will be some surface changes like small avalanches. Researchers hope that the work they do on this flyby could protect us if any other asteroid were to come towards Earth. One of the things that you've noticed is that a lot of the bodies that have been reported lately begin with the number 2019. That's the year 2019. That means that's the year they're discovered. You also notice that we discover it, and then a few weeks later it passes. These small ones are very hard to see. They're very dark. They're the same color as space. They don't put off a lot of light. They have all kinds of different angles on them. They don't show up on radar. And we discovered them a few weeks before they pass our neighborhood. So a lot of people are wondering, what are the odds of Earth actually getting hit by one of these larger things, the size of a city bus or even bigger? And the odds are very, very small. They are. I mean, occasionally Earth does get hit, but not directly. It's usually a glancing blow like Chelyabinsk, where we had that glancing blow up in Russia. And yes, some people were injured. Not very much property damage, a few windows knocked out. But, it could have been a lot worse if the angle of that approach had been more straight up and down to the ground. You understand? So that's why I'm saying it's kind of like hitting a bullet with a bullet going through space. Also, as a NASA update, we have the moon lander update. A lot of people know that we sent a lander up there, a small one, about the size of a Volkswagen. It landed a little hard. NASA's updated a plan call for proposals for another lunar lander to enable a human mission in 2024. Last I checked, it's 2019, so we're talking about 5 years. That's pretty quick. If you have a lander that's capable of landing on the moon in your garage, you better think about submitting that, because there's just not a whole lot of time to get ready for this. In a procurement filing, we keep up with these things, it was issued in late April. I think it was April 26th. That's not long ago. NASA updated an earlier notice published April 8th that announced plans to solicit proposals for an ascent stage for a human-rated lunar lander. Instead, the upcoming procurement will seek proposals for a complete integrated lander. That includes an ascent module as well as a descent module and a transfer stage. So if your neighbor's got that transfer stage, you might think about taking some beer and chips over. A formal call for proposals, part of NASA's Next Space Technologies for Exploration Partnerships. It's also called Next Step. I'll tell you, my friends in NASA at JPL, they just love acronyms. I think they sit around and say, well, what about Appelskoppenblinger? No, that doesn't roll off the tongue. Yeah, they play with this all the time. Anyway, the program was formerly known as Appendix H. Now that's a sexy name. It has yet to be released by the agency. NASA said on the Next Step website that it anticipates issuing that solicitation by the end of this month. I don't normally date these programs, so that would be May. And it will include both studies as well as options for vehicle deployment. NASA will seek proposals from U.S. industry. That would be you out there, not a government agency. Industry. for the development, integration, and crude demonstration of these elements as a functional human landing system that can fulfill NASA and industry requirements. The simpler the better, I would think. Maybe something like a Ford Mustang. Or, let's see, what did they try? Oh, yeah, it was a Tesla Roadster. That was pretty simple, wasn't it? That'd be a great lunar lander. Of course, it would only seat 2. Prior to the announcement by Vice President Mike Pence, March 26th, that called for a human lunar lander in 5 years, NASA was going on a 2-track approach for developing human-class lunar landers. In February, it released a separate solicitation for studies of transfer vehicles and descent stages as part of the next step and the designated Appendix E. However, NASA changed course after Pence's speech. You know, it's how sometimes governmental agencies don't talk so well with one another. He said, what? Announcing plans for the ascent stage work in April 8th, pre-solicitation notice, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, who I think has done a pretty good job, in his April 9th speech at the 35th Space Symposium in Colorado Springs, said that notice was developed within a week. He added that he expected the lunar lander systems to be built as public-private partnerships. It's about time. Wow. When I was a kid, there was a program on called Salvage One. It was, post Andy of Mayberry. It had Andy Griffith starring in it. I think it was only on 1 or 2 seasons, but basically it was a NASA engineer who got out of NASA and started his own salvage yard. And then all of a sudden, NASA had some problems in space and then needed him to come back. He didn't want to come back. And he decided to build his own spaceship in his junkyard. So he would fly his spaceship from the junkyard out to space and do these missions and then come back. Now that's a public-private partnership. I liked his, I think it was a AMC Javelin automatic transmission shifter. That was on the spacecraft too. That was pretty cool. Anyway, the updated plans provide a second chance for those who did not participate in the earlier lander studies solicitation or who did not get awards. So if you didn't get an award, now's your chance. You can get involved and you can be part of this lunar lander descent and ascent units as well as a transition vehicle. It's exciting stuff. If I had a shop, I would do it. I will tell you right now that the Condor electric pickup truck is pretty close to ready. Yeah, it is. And it would have power steering too. And brakes and roll-up windows and comfortable seats. Might not fit, an astronaut with a full pressurized pack on it, but it would work. It would drive around. I think it would be pretty cool. Yes, you can. It's ev-fleet.com. ev-fleet.com if you want to see the electric pickup truck. All right. We have enough time to start this, not finish it, because this is really important stuff. We are struggling with the globalists all the time. We are having problems with several different fronts in this war. We're having troubles with the Fed, which we'll go over tonight. We're having troubles with what's going on in the streets, in our classrooms, and litigation, and of course the legislators are all in. And now we're having trouble. It just sprang up Saturday. Another front in this war, and it's all the same war, believe me, all the same war. The globalists plan to disrupt the Middle East peace process. President Trump's efforts to establish world peace and allow all nations to engage in free and open trade are the biggest threat to the globalist plan to dominate the world from one location. Well, last week we covered how the power of the president's economic growth had outperformed the IOER rates and is probably going to force the Fed to lower interest rates in order to protect the liquidity of cash for smaller banks. This is the first time, and I think ever, that the rates have gotten above the IOER, and the floor of liquidity, which we like to keep at or above $1.4 trillion, is at $1.4 trillion. So it's at the point now where the big banks probably won't have a problem. They can make the liquidity requirements, but the smaller banks with 10 branches, 15 branches, 25 branches, just like any small company, you get into cash flow crunches where you don't have enough liquidity to make, payroll or payoffs or the requirements by the regulators for so much liquid cash on hand. And so what these smaller banks have to do is they have to go to the window, we call it. You can get cash, but it's expensive, and you don't want to go there very often. It's like a payday lender. You don't get paid till Friday, but you have a bill that's absolutely due on Tuesday. You can get a payday loan, and then when your check comes in, you sign it over to, the payday lender. At first, you think, "Oh, gee, that's cheap. $20 is all it cost me," but you figure it out on a percentage basis, it's expensive, like 30, 40, 50% interest they're making on their money. That's why there's so many of them out there. Oh, they think they're doing a public service. They really do, but they're taking advantage of desperate people who need to have the cash and need to have it now, or they're going to get thrown out of their apartment, or their electricity is going to be cut off, or their cell phone is going to be cut off. You can't wait till Friday. Everything is right on the edge of being cut off, and so you make these payday loans. Well, that's what these small banks have to do, and it's not good. So they raised rates 4 times in rapid succession in an effort to try to put the skids on the Trump economy. I'm sorry, we could not be stopped. I mean, we are powerful, and we kick it out and want to get it done. And once we got the regulations out of our way, that's exactly what we did. And the Fed tried to stop us. And they tried to do it artificially by raising rates. And now what's happened is, even though we've taken in record tax revenues, and April 15th and April 17th, they had whopping receipts, it did not help the liquidity at the Fed. This is not the way they work. So that's the big problem. And I think what's going to have to happen is they're going to be forced to lower rates, which means the economy is going to grow even faster, which is really great. It's great for employers. It's great for customers. It's great for people out there who are not working in the job they really want to work at. They want to get back to making good money. But as you can see, in the last month, there's been a multi-front war to kind of stop that. The Mueller report came out. It wasn't what they expected, so they're trying to stoke the fires and keep it all going and try different angles and obstruction and lying. And, well, you've seen it all in the press. It's ridiculously nauseating. We see what's going on in Venezuela. You see China. You see Russia. You see Cuba. They're all moving troops in there. They're all trying to get a Western Hemisphere presence right below the United States. President Trump doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want to invade. He's not a nation builder. He doesn't want to send troops anywhere. You can see what the problem is. You can also see where the globalists have spent tons, millions, billions of dollars in a forced migration march. People from more than 100 countries have been forced to march and invade at the southern border of the United States in an effort to destroy Trump's immigration plan. Everything is done for one purpose, and that one purpose is to destroy the momentum of the Trump presidency. We also covered the panic spreading throughout the deep state about the declassification of the FISA documents, now that the Mueller report has proven there was zero collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. We know there was collusion, but it wasn't with the Trump campaign. It was with the Clinton campaign. It was with the Obama administration. And now the documentation, even today, has come out about actual physical, real people, flesh and blood spies working inside the Trump administration. And I maintain, you haven't heard about it yet, but I maintain also the Cruz administration. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. YouTubers, hang in there. We'll be right back.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
right. Welcome back to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew. If you want to call in, I am watching the call boards tonight. It is 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998. We take any and all questions, unfiltered. No profanity, please. And we will, and no name calling. So the phone lines are open. I'll try to keep them open the whole program. Thank you for participating in the YouTube chat. Keep sharing and keep liking and keep listening to the archives of the YouTube channel, because we have now crossed the 2,100 hour mark. And when we cross the 4,000 hour mark, guess what happens? Yes, we become monetized, which means we might be able to help keep the lights on in the studio without a constant subsidy from Brooks Agnew Incorporated. So let me get back to what we were talking about. We want to add to this war that's going on, the movement this year of Israel's capital to Jerusalem after President Trump had the courage to make that declaration. And it is easy to see that the institutions that the globalists have been setting up inside America are in jeopardy. The forced migration of millions of people has become cannon fodder for President Trump's immigration policy demands. The teachers' unions are forcing Islamic teachings and customs into our homes and supporting the most radical politics in nearly a century. Now, today, the rockets are flying by the hundreds into Israel to rain terror on the people of that country. The death toll continues to rise today on both sides of the Israel-Gaza border in one of the most intense flare-ups of violence in the region in many years, shattering a month-long lull in attacks. Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip, snipers, these guys fired more than 600 rockets into southern Israel in less than 24 hours, killing at least 4 Israelis. I've seen some of the films of families cowering in their backyards, hiding in shelters, covering their children on the sidewalk as these rockets come overhead. I told you before, I was on the phone with a friend of mine in Israel when a rocket came over, and it was so loud on the phone. Wow. And it smashed into the street, across the street. And I asked, what the heck was that? And she said that was a rocket coming over from Gaza. So they do come over. They come over all the time, indiscriminately raining terror. But these are missiles. These are not just the regular old water pipe rockets like the pieces that I've showed you before I held in my hands. According to Haaretz, 4 Israeli men and 16 Palestinians were killed so far since tensions increased along the border on Friday. 4 Israelis were also wounded as rockets fell on the Israeli south on Saturday. On Sunday, today, the Israeli military said a misfired Palestinian rocket, not an Israeli airstrike, caused the death of a pregnant Palestinian woman and her infant niece in Gaza Strip. So you can see they're firing these rockets from like next to the fountain in the yard or next to the kindergarten because they want Israel to strike back. They want Israel to shoot a counterattack so that they can kill innocent people. According to the Israeli military, Israeli forces struck dozens of targets in Gaza, including militant sites that were concealed in residential areas, schools, hospitals. Israeli military spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus said Israel's strikes hit a variety of high-quality militant sites, including commanders' homes in which militant activity was observed. Israeli medical officials said an early morning rocket from Gaza Sunday killed a Israeli father of 4, 58-year-old Moshe Agadi, outside a home in the coastal city of Ashkelon. Let's see. Agadi reported reportedly died of his injuries after he was struck by shrapnel, making the first Israeli casualty from a rocket since the year 2014. According to the Barzilai Medical Center in Israel, a 49-year-old man was killed when a rocket hit an Ashkelon factory, while another man in Israel was killed when his vehicle was hit by a projectile near a small border community called Yad Mordechai. Israeli medical officials also said that a Thai laborer was critically injured in a rocket strike later on Sunday. By late afternoon, the Israeli military said militants had fired more than 600 rockets into Israel, and that Israeli forces had launched about 280 airstrikes against militant targets in Gaza. In Israel, sirens warning of incoming attacks were heard along the border region overnight and through the day. Schools were canceled and roads were closed, as many Israelis reportedly hid in bomb shelters. If you've ever been over there, you'll notice that on the sidewalks periodically, you'll see these big, the concrete, like storm culverts. They're like 16 feet long or 12 feet long, and they're concrete. They're just sitting on the sidewalk, like, somebody left a pipe off somewhere. Those are bomb shelters. Yeah, those are sidewalk bomb shelters. When people hear the sirens and they're on the sidewalk, they cower inside these concrete pipes to keep from getting hit from shrapnel when these missiles land indiscriminately in the streets. This is just like the V-2 rockets that the Germans used to launch against London, and they really are quite terrifying. So let's see. A Hamas political source told the news outlet that the group decided to take serious steps against Israel because the Israel government has been slow in implementing understandings reached between the two parties. It is widely seen as a flaccid excuse for what may turn out to others or to be orders from globalist Central Command in an effort to retaliate against the movement of a military embargo of Cuba. It is, after all, an act of war for which Cuba is not prepared to respond directly, rather than comply with demands for withdrawal of Cuba's military troops from Venezuela. Other factions in the globalist power structure are being ordered to respond. In Gaza, large explosions are thundering on an almost hourly basis. Anyway, I don't look for that to let up anytime soon. The Egyptians are working hard trying to broker a peace, but, they're just following orders. And one thing we are very, very well aware of is that these missiles are a different class than the water pipe rockets, homemade from the water pipe that Israel donates to the Palestinians to lay water pipes so that they can have running water in their homes. Hamas takes these pipes, welds fins on them, fills them with powder, and uses them as rockets to shoot back at Israel. I've held shrapnel from those water pipe bombs in my hands. I know it's true. But these missiles are different. These missiles come from Iran. So you can see this is all globalist attack on all fronts, in all areas, against Trump's government. As you may know, the Democrat arm of the globalist Central Command is openly disappointed that the Mueller report exonerated President Trump and appears now to cut down the barrier that has protected the Obama administration from prosecution for obstruction, fraud, perjury, and treason during the 2016 election. In the few months that Democrats will control congressional committees and committee chairs, they are trying to overthrow the American government. Part of this effort was to force Attorney General William Barr to answer questions before Senate Judiciary Committee. True to form, The Democrats use their time to grandstand and make baseless accusations and use semantics and subterfuge to appease their base voters. 3 of the senators are running for president in 2020 and yet are somehow still allowed to sit on the committee. Talk about a conflict of interest. Senator Graham and Mr. Barr were masterful at playing it cool in the face of such horrible name-calling and lies. Let me fix that real quick. Congressman Nadler decided to ignore a century of parliamentary protocols and demanded that professional career attorneys be allowed to examine and cross-examine Attorney General Barr as though he was on trial. Barr refused to appear. Nadler quickly countered with a threat to hold the Attorney General in contempt of Congress. Like anyone should be afraid of that. Congress does not arrest and detain people for ignoring its subpoenas anymore, but it still has significant power to demand witnesses and documents, though it could take time. The contempt citation is a key part of that congressional clout. President Donald Trump, with Barr's assistance, is stonewalling several inquiries being led by Democrats in the House of Representatives into his administration, his family, his personal business interests, as he should. The confrontation between the White House and Congress escalated on Thursday when Barr refused to appear. Here's how the congressional subpoena, contempt, and enforcement process works. A lot of people don't know this. I'm going to just share this with you very quickly. Phone lines are open, 213-233-3998. I'm watching the boards if you want to call in. The Supreme Court has recognized Congress's power to issue subpoenas, saying in order to write laws, it also needs to be able to investigate. Congress's power to issue subpoenas, while broad, is not limited. Is limited. The High Court has said Congress is not a law enforcement agency and cannot investigate someone purely to expose wrongdoing or damaging information about them for political gain. But that is exactly what is going on. Exactly what is going on. A subpoena must potentially further some legitimate legislative purpose, the court has said. So what can Congress do to a government official who ignores a subpoena? Well, pretty much nothing. I mean, look what happened to Eric Withholder. Eric Withholder refused to turn over information not relative to Eric Holder, not relative to Barack Obama. It wasn't a political witch hunt. They wanted information relative to Fast and Furious because a man was killed. They were doing an investigation of a murder. And Eric Withholder refused to give documents to Congress, and Congress found him in contempt. You know what? So what? He thumbed his nose at Congress, walked out, and decided he might run for president. The contempt process can start in either the House or the Senate, unlike with legislation. It only takes one of the chambers to make and enforce a contempt citation. Typically, the members of the congressional committee that issued the subpoena will vote on whether to move forward with a contempt finding. If a majority supports the resolution, then another vote will be held by the entire chamber. The Democrats have majority control of the House, a very slim majority, like the film on your teeth, my majority. Trump's Republican Party holds the Senate, but also pretty much controls the House in the sense that Democrats can't pass anything. Democrats won't pass anything. They're so focused on trying to attack that they're not going to legislate. Already almost a year of their congressional term is gone, and they've done nothing, absolutely nothing. They are now a lame duck Congress, and they're not going to be able to get anything passed. They're only going to hold the majority for 24 months, and they're gone. They're just gone. So how is the contempt finding enforced? Supreme Court said in 1821, Congress has inherent authority to arrest and detain recalcitrant witnesses. In 1927, the High Court said the Senate acted lawfully in sending its deputy sergeant at arms to Ohio to arrest and detain the brother of the then Attorney General who had refused to testify about a bribery scheme known as the Teapot Dome scandal. It has been almost a century since Congress exercised this arrest and detain authority, and the practice is unlikely to make a comeback, legal experts said. If there ever was a case, it should have been Eric Withholder. Alternatively, Congress can ask the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, a federal prosecutor, to bring criminal charges. That's called a referral. That's been made lots of times. Chairman Nunes issued a referral for 8 indictments to law enforcement. You don't see a single one of those indictments being made. No arrests have been made. No FBI raids have been made. No SWAT teams. No computers. No cell phones. No computers. Nothing has been seized by the FBI or any police. But this option is also unlikely to be pursued, at least when it comes to subpoenas against executive branch officials. And yes, the Department of Justice serves under the executive branch. Yes, under the executive branch. So basically what you have is you have a legislative branch subpoenaing the executive branch for political purposes. And this is just not going to stand. Anyway, for this reason, in modern times, Congress has opted for a third and final approach to enforcing a contempt finding, getting its lawyers to bring a civil lawsuit asking a judge to rule that compliance is required. So far, it ain't never happened. Should have a few times, but it hasn't. Add to that the fact that numerous members of the Congressional Judiciary Committee are probably under sealed indictment right now for crimes as serious as leaking, perjury, and treason, and one can see why Attorney General Barr cannot appear before them. How would it look to suffer a verbal flogging before them only to be arresting them a week later? It would look like political retribution, which, if you think about it, is probably exactly why they're conducting themselves in such a disgusting fashion. That's just my idea. But I'll bet you, in addition to the 3 presidential candidates on the Senate Judiciary Committee, on the Congressional Committee, there are several, Reno, and others that are under sealed indictment for leaking, for lying, or for treason. And it would not do well for Barr to appear before these people in Congress, Nadler and others, take a beating, and in his normal, nonchalant, I'm sorry, did I need another drink? Manner. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw the a collusion story. You remember the movie A Christmas Story? The kid with the round glass. Doesn't Barr look like him all grown up? Yeah, it's just me, but I just think so. So I sent out a collusion story poster made from that. It would not do well for him to go there, take that, and then turn around and arrest them. It would just, the history books wouldn't treat it well. So he very wisely avoided the fight. He's making them come out in the open, and I'm sure when they show up next time on the committee, the law enforcement knows where to find them. And just, wouldn't it be great? I'm just asking the chat room and YouTube and the chat room and TFR, don't you think it would be great if they came live into the chambers and handcuffed them and hauled them out? The ones, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would be one for the history books. Something had to be done to restore the original constitutional vision. So I can just tell you, there's a nominee blockade going on in the Senate, and it's been going on for a long time. It's been going on since Trump raised his right hand. Never in U.S. history has a party so resolutely marshaled its authority to stop an entire administration in its tracks. The Democrats' naked refusal to accept the 2016 election results triggered a recent Senate rule change. This is remarkable. It's unprecedented. On approving judicial nominees, according to a lawyer for a public interest law firm. Adopting the 2-hour standard was sadly necessary to put the brakes on a persistent abuse, partisan obstruction on judicial nominees. This is Ken Klukowski of the First Liberty Institute. This is what he wrote. And he was referring to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's decision to address the backlog, and it's huge, it's in the hundreds, of nominees by allowing only 2 hours of debate following a cloture vote for district court nominees. Klukowski said the change was triggered by this wholesale, well-planned, well-executed, multi-month, unprecedented obstruction from liberal Senate Democrats. He explained that if the Senate refuses to make a decision on a nominee, then that judgeship, we're talking about federal judges here, including even a seat on the Supreme Court, it could be left vacant indefinitely for the entire term. Now, in addition to the federal courts, okay, this nomination and confirmation process applies for senior positions in the executive branch. A president is only one person, after all. He can only work so many hours. He can only read so many letters, answer so many phone calls. And for his administration to function, it requires more than 1,000 Democrat-confirmed senior officials to carry out his orders and implement his agenda. That's called an administration, people. Hello, that's what it's called. The confirmation process formally focused on a candidate's education, his experience, his character. That goes into a severe background check all the way back to when you're in grade school. But that standard was changed, he wrote, when the Democrat-controlled Senate destroyed Robert Bork's Supreme Court nomination in 1987. It was so bad, it was called being borked. They personally attacked him for things that were completely fabricated. And it was so devastating, he withdrew. He was done. And there are a lot of people who will not go through that today because of the Democrats. Remember that senators have unlimited time for debate, which they can use to delay votes on nominees. It's unlimited. It's a historic tactic known as filibustering. You see it all the time on the news. It makes you sick, doesn't it? It makes you want to change the channel. And thank God you have been changing the channel away. That's why you're here at X Squared Radio, the #1 talk radio program on Sunday nights. Senate Democrats began filibustering lower court nominees during the first term of President George W. Bush. Republicans reciprocated for Barack Obama's nominees, but only on key things, not every one of them. And Senate Democrats invoked the nuclear option to approve nominees with a simple majority, that is 51 votes. Then, when Trump nominated the supremely well-qualified Neil Gorsuch and Democrats tried to filibuster, the GOP expanded the nuclear option. For years, Senate Democrats abused another feature of the Senate's rules, and that is to prevent that from happening, Senate leaders take a cloture vote to limit the amount of debate time and keep business moving forward. After a cloture vote, which, by the way, takes 60 votes, debate was usually allowed to continue another 30 hours. Well, that was never a major problem previously. The number of cloture votes required to end filibusters of presidential nominations throughout all of U.S. history until 2017 could be counted in the dozens. It just didn't happen. But for Trump's nominees, Democrats have demanded 128 such votes. Yeah, 128. Now you see that this is orchestrated, right? It's orchestrated to stop the Trump administration from being at all. So, hundreds of key administration positions are not filled. Look at Dr. Ben Carson in HUD. He serves there by himself. He has no assistant. He has no deputy. He's doing all the work by himself. And you can see why he says at the end of 2020 he's out. It's wearing him out. All this time he's been doing an excellent job at HUD. And the Democrats will not approve any of his staff. I know, I think it's racist too. So hundreds of these go vacant, and some judicial nominees have been waiting for almost 2 years for an up or down vote in the Senate. And this is all naked refusal to accept the results of the 2016 presidential election. By reducing the number to 2 hours... Oh, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jaronism Raw with Jaron and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Russian plane crash, more battles over Mueller. I'm Evan Haining.
This plane was not on fire when it landed.
Some passengers who survived the fiery landing of a Russian Aeroflot plane have reportedly said the plane was hit by lightning while it was in the air. Aviation correspondent Richard Quest describes video of the plane's shaky approach to the Moscow runway. No flames can be seen until it bounces, and then a fire appears.
It says it's been hit by lightning. Requests immediately to return to Moscow. Comes round, does one loop, it lands, bounces up again, crashes down.
That's when the fire appeared. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a full investigation. House Democrats continue to demand release of the full unredacted Mueller report and have set a tentative date of May 15th for special counsel Robert Mueller to testify. Correspondent Boris Sanchez says there's testimony in the report that the White House would not like to see rehashed on national television.
Specifically, you can look at embarrassing details about aides ignoring orders from President Trump, or suggestions in the Mueller report that witnesses destroyed evidence, and of course, those 10 or so instances of the president himself trying to somehow interfere in this investigation.
Republican Senator John Kennedy told NBC's Meet the Press, enough is enough.
It's time to move on. I understand that Washington is not the big rock candy mountain and that politics is in everybody's blood. But I think we ought to spend a little bit of our time talking about the next generation as opposed to the next election. If I could make one other point, this business of the dispute between the White House and the House is dangerous to America's institutions.
Well, President Trump is moving away from previous statements that he would let Attorney General William Barr decide if Mueller can testify before Congress, tweeting, "No redos for the Dems," but he did not indicate if he would take any steps to block Mueller. I'm Evan Haining.
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to X Squared Radio. Thank you, YouTubers, for hanging in there during the break, listening to the news with us. I wanted to remind you that coming up this month is Contact in the Desert. You see the ad there on the YouTube screen. That is the 31st through the 2nd. You can show up on 30th and join us for dinner that night. This is the first year that I've been invited to speak. It is going to be awesome. I'm going to be giving a presentation on Friday, the 31st, on the Hollow Earth expedition and the origin and destiny of the Earth. And on Saturday afternoon, right after lunch, we'll be speaking about remembering the future. It'll be a workshop. Some great information there. Good chance to meet you in person. If you're on the West Coast, how about coming out to Contact in the Desert? Make contact with me. I'll be there. I want to, let's get back to it here. Let's see. Anyway, we're going to see if these tactics produce results. You can already, as you heard on the news, the posturing continues. Nadler doesn't want to let up. He's being directed to do what he's doing. He's a good soldier. He's going to follow orders. I hope that all these guys are voted out of office in 2020. We're sick and tired of this. We really are. We really are. What McConnell has done is he's passed a rule change, which instead of allowing 30 hours of debate, which they're taking, like 29 hours and 30 minutes for every single person, and you know that adds up. When you're only at work for 8 hours a day, that's 3.5 days of debate for each and every single one of those appointees. And some of them are ridiculous. These federal judges are just crazy. They just don't want the court staffed with conservatives. That's all it boils down to. Anyway, by reducing the number to 2 hours for each nominee, the Senate has an opportunity to confirm the 53 district court nominees that are pending, which make up about 36% of all judicial vacancies. We shall see if this tactic produces the results for many hundreds of Trump nominees still hung up in the Democrat blockade. Also, on the other front, last week we talked about the managed economic collapse. A lot of news actors and Hollywood types are hoping, praying for an economic collapse. I mean, they don't care. They have plenty of money. They don't care about you. They hate you. They do. They hate you. The only thing standing in between them and you out there is President Trump. So the U.S. stocks have powered to fresh all-time highs. The healthcare sector has emerged as a pariah for investors, as burgeoning support for Medicare for All among Democrat contenders for 2020, part of an overall shift to the very far left, like way over here off the screen left, for the party as a whole, has caused panic to set in. All it took was a few formerly moderate candidates like Kamala Harris to follow crazy Bernie Sanders' lead and embrace Medicare for All, and holders of managed care stocks were stuck with a $300 billion loss. Yeah, there's no win here in the healthcare industry. If it goes Medicare for All, the entire thing is going to smash. It's going to smash into the ground. You're talking dumping 180 million Americans off of private health insurance that they already like, that their employers provide them. It would be a total disaster. But while the price action in healthcare, I say health insurance, has left thousands of investors frustrated, it's just one harbinger of what could happen to the market depending on the outcome of the Democrat primary, according to the Bloomberg piece published today. The increasing hostility to Wall Street and corporate America from candidates like crazy Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas Warren, as well as what has become a bipartisan push to curb share buybacks, which would threaten corporations' position as a crucial marginal buyer powering the decade-long bull market. You have to understand what that is. When business is good and the company is making money, what happens is the company can use that money to buy back its own shares off the public market, to own more of its own company, to control more of its own destiny. Now, some of these companies, a few of them, will buy back all the public shares and become privately held again. Why would they do that? Why do you think they would do that? Oh, that's right. You can't answer me. The main reason is, look, there are a lot of ways to raise money. You can go ask families and friends. You can go ask neighbors. You can beat the streets if you're careful. You can't just put an ad out there in a newspaper and say, hey, send me money. I'm starting up my company. That violates the blue sky laws and you'll go to jail. SEC is going to come pick you up for securities violations. But there is a way called a reverse merger. There are companies out there, usually made of attorneys, who form shell corporations. They're like, ABC Corporation. And they're publicly traded. They have 100 million shares on the market. They trade for a tenth of a penny. They're fully reporting. They spend the money to do all this reporting. And it's in the tens of thousands of dollars to do this. The reason that they do this is this shell corporation becomes a product. It becomes a product that they sell to companies who are trying to raise money. So if you're a small company and you have some sales, some track record, you have a good business, or you're going to merge with another business, or you have upcoming business, and you need capital to, buy equipment, to buy property, to make acquisitions of suppliers or competitors, things like that, then you need to raise money, and you need to raise it pretty quickly, and you need to raise it in the public market. So you reverse merge your company with the public shell. You change the name of the shell to, Sports Camp or whatever you want to change it to that fits and you do a marketing campaign. And you spend $250,000, $500,000, $10 million on a marketing plan to sell that stock. You increase the number of shares so that you have enough to sell off and still maintain a decent ownership of your company. But here's the thing. If you're careful, you're selling off your company to tens of thousands of small investors. First, it goes to regional brokers, then the regional brokers sell out to other people, and that way the price kind of goes up, hopefully, in your initial public offering. I will tell you right now that only 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of maybe 5,000 initial public offerings actually make money. The vast majority of them lose money, although the odds are much better than they are with, say, lottery tickets, which is also another way to raise money for your business. You can play the lottery. I know the odds are crap, but believe me, they're better odds than trying to go to a bank. Way better. You'll have a better success rate with the lottery than you ever will with the bank, and it will cost you way less, and you'll manage to keep your integrity. So this is how reverse mergers are done. But here's what happens. This new company, this Sports Camp company now has 2 companies. One of the companies is the product that they make and their employees and their factory and their parts and their patents and all that. That's one part of the company. Another company, which is just about the same size, is the company that keeps all those things compliant with the SEC. It is enormously paper intensive. It is time intensive. You have to have audited financials, which cost $25,000, $30,000 per quarter. Yeah, per quarter. You're talking $100,000 a year just for accountants. And that's not your internal accountants. Those are the auditing accountants. You have to have your records capable of being audited, which means everything down to the petty cash has to be backed up with receipts. Every dime that goes into the company has to be traced. Where did it come from? Who put it in? Was it a loan? Was it a contribution? Was there a tax liability? All these things have to be tracked in order to stay compliant. It is enormously labor intensive. And then something else happens. It's called the naked short trader. The naked short trader, which is usually an institutional trader like Citigroup or one of these big outfits like that, they get wind that your stock is now climbing $3, $4, $6, $8 a share, $20 a share, and they decide to sell your shares at a discount into the market. Well, they don't even have to have the shares. They could just make them up out of thin air, as long as the price keeps going down. So what do? They hire market makers. These are people that put out bad news about your company. Oh, you got arrested for DUI, or you had an unpaid parking ticket, oh, you had a repoed car when you were 21 years old. Anything that they can put out to drive the stock down. They never have to produce the shares, ever. And they drive your shares from $8 to 80 cents to 8 cents to 0.8 of a penny, and you delist. And guess what? They don't have to report any of that money that they made selling those phantom shares on their taxes, because they never owned it. They never owned the shares. They never made a profit. I'm not kidding you. During the Obama administration, over 6,000 small businesses on the SEC were completely destroyed. Several others almost. If you want to read about it, you can read the story of Overstock.com, a failed attempt to naked short trade a profitable company out of existence. Believe me, he fought it for years. He won. It was almost not worth it. I think the most valuable thing about the fight was bringing you the information that these people really are out there. So that's why companies buy back their shares off the market. They want to get out of the public market. They're not going to raise any more money on the public market. They're not going to have their stock go up in price. It's not going to go up in price. That's why they're able, with the profits that they're making, to buy back their shares, because their company's undervalued in the market. And the really crazy thing is, there are thousands and thousands of companies that are way overvalued. Case in point would be Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors stock is selling for about 200 times earnings. That's insanity. Normally it's 10 to 15 times for even a tech company. 200 times is pure insanity. It's nothing but hype. It's nothing but name in the news hype. And yet, even Elon Musk made the attempt to buy back the stock off the market and go private. It's that treacherous out there in the public market. That's why it happens. So that is what wanted to have happen in the healthcare industry, and it didn't happen. So there's even been some talk of banning buybacks altogether, something that Goldman warned last month could tank the entire market, and it could all happen sooner than many investors believe possible, because it's the one thing that very powerfully floats up the price of stock, because there's a buyer out there. It's the company. They're the ones buying back their shares. That's why the shares are worth what they're worth, because there's a demand for them. Every single day or every single period of time, there's a buy of those shares, which drives the value of the shares up on the market. Not that the company's making any more money. It's making the same money it was last year, but the price of the shares is down, and so they're going to use the money to buy back their own shares. Think of it like a reverse mortgage, okay? If you live in a house for 25 years, let's say 28 years, it's pretty close to being paid off. You owe $10,000 on a house that's worth $250,000. But your health is bad, and you don't really have good insurance. You have life insurance, but you don't have insurance or some kind of reserve cash that you can live in dignity. And so Tom Selleck shows up in your living room and he sells you a reverse mortgage. This is where you basically sell your house back to the mortgage company at a discount for a little bit of cash each month. Yeah, so your mortgage payment goes away. You stop making that, $750 a month house payment you've been making for 25 years. That goes away. And they pay you, say, $1,500 a month. Well, I mean, you're on easy street, right? Except that $1,500, they actually charge you $3,000. Yeah. You're getting $1,500. but they're putting a $3,000 lien against your house every single month. $36,000 a year, so you can have $18,000 a year. That sounds fair, doesn't it? Yeah, and guess what happens when you die? You sign your house over to them. They then can sell your house for the remainder of the profit. It's a good deal for you because you're desperate and you have no way to get your hands on cash. It's a good deal for them because they're making about 50% interest off your house. That's what companies do when they go public. They sell off part of their company to people who are just trying to make money on the stock. They want the stock value to go up, but if it doesn't go up, they're going to sell it off. They're going to recash out and they're going to invest in something else. And they're going to sell it at a discount. And you're the one that's going to be burned. And that's the way it goes. So, most people think they don't have to worry about it today. But we can just look at what's happened with healthcare as an indication that you don't know when it's going to come. You just don't know when it's going to happen. The market's growing unease with evidence in Stephen Schwarzman's comments this last Monday at Millikan Institute conference in Los Angeles. He warned that the Democrat candidates and their policies threaten to slow the economic expansion, particularly by pushing for a rollback of tax reform. If they do that, they will crush the Trump economy, which is exactly what they want to do. Few presidents have aligned themselves with markets as closely as Trump, who cheers records in the Dow Jones Industrial Average and browbeat Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell for raising rates 4 times, by the way, in 1 year to try to hurt his economy. His sweeping overhaul of corporate taxes capped a 35% rally in the S&P 500. Not everything has helped, but the image of a Republican-controlled government united in the cause of stocks, benefits, the 401k of every American who has one. If you're like me and you had a 401k for years and years and years and years, and you watched it evaporate in the Obama administration, went away. $50,000 gone in a matter of months, just disappeared like dust in the wind. Then you would know what I mean. You have a 401k right now that's rising by 14, 18, 21%. In 10 years' time, you're going to retire a multi-millionaire. That's where you want to be, isn't it? That's where you want to be. So enter the opposition. Its flag borne by the likes of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, whose condemnation of Amazon.com helped keep it from building a New York headquarters. Stocks may remain near record highs, and few candidates frame themselves as the outright enemy of equities like her. But the episodes are evidence that plenty of Democrat contenders don't view persevering profit margins as a top priority. They want to tear those things down. So that really is the polar opposite of what the Trump administration has done, said Mark Sterkel, CEO and senior portfolio manager of Adams Funds, which has about $2.5 billion under management. That's a pretty good size hedge fund. If anything, some Democrats view the outperformance of healthcare stocks over the past few months as a sign that their approach is working, because it signals that, for the first time, the market is taking the threat of a crazy Bernie Sanders presidency seriously. Here's the deal. Don't take my word for it. Go to Bernie Sanders' website. Look at his platform. If you own a home, or if you ever thought about owning a home, you're done. In the Bernie Sanders presidency, all private property goes away. All property will be owned by the government, and it will be used by those who have the greatest need, which will be determined by the government. Warren and Sanders have called for sharply raising taxes on wealthy people and corporations, often calling them out by name, to finance an expansion of the safety net, which has holes in it about this big. The average person can fall right through that. Do you happen to know anyone here? Does anybody here happen to know how much Amazon paid in taxes last year? Yeah, right. So Amazon paid zero income taxes last year because they made deals with states and with the federal government to create jobs. But look how many jobs Amazon created. They don't just create the jobs in the warehouse and the picking stations. They create jobs in my neighborhood. There are people in my neighborhood that I see at the post office every single time I go. You know what they're doing? They're shipping product. They're shipping stuff that they bought and sold. They have online stores on Amazon. They're making money. They live in a neighborhood, $300,000 homes. They're driving new cars. Why? Because of Amazon. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have jobs because of Amazon. And every single one of them, including me, pay income tax on that money. All that money that we make selling stuff on Amazon, we pay income tax on. So don't tell me Amazon does not pay any taxes. You're a fool if you believe that. Warren recently warned that major technology firms are hurting entrepreneurs. No, they're not. The area around these giants are referred to by venture capitalist investors as the dead zone because it means you try to start up a business, you just run the risk that Amazon steps in front of you or Google steps in front of you or they buy you out before you have a chance to get started. I hate to tell you, Elizabeth, but that's what every single entrepreneur hopes for. They hope that they start a business in their garage. And they hope that a few days later, the Amazon car rolls out in front and says, look, nice business you have here. How much do you want for it? Every entrepreneur wants to sell their business to Amazon or Google. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to start another one with the profit that they made. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur working out of their garage. Trust me on this. Just trust me on this. Other election themes bear watching, say the Bulls. They include stiffer regulation and the breakup of large companies, something Warren is advocating. Her proposal could see the dissolution of tech megacaps like Amazon, Alphabet Inc.'s Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and she's called monopolies that harm innovation and small business. These companies are the buyers of this technology. Have you ever been to an extension site, Elizabeth? Have you ever been to an extension site? Do you see the number of apps that are created all the time for everything, from writing music to colorizing photographs to, designing homes? There are apps for everything. You know who develops those? Entrepreneurs. We're the ones that write that stuff. Where would it go if it wasn't bought by Google or by Microsoft? Where would it go if it wasn't bought by Adobe or Amazon? It would go nowhere. You don't understand the technical market. Leave it the hell alone and watch it grow. Bottom line, when President Trump warned ahead of the midterms that if Americans want to see the market and economy tank, just vote Democrat, he was, once again, right. What's worse, at this point, progressive Democrats wouldn't even need to win to crash the market. They would only need to poll high enough to give investors a real scare. That's enough to make it happen. We've got about 1 minute left in this segment. Phone lines are open, 213-233-3998. Don't forget, please don't forget about the Contact in the Desert coming up. May 31st through June 2nd. It's in your neighborhood. If you're anywhere close to Indian Wells, California, which is close to Palm Springs, get yourself there. Come on, this is the biggest event in the world. Bring your comic costume. Dress up. Come, have fun with us. And you'll get enlightened. You'll learn something. It's a great area. We're changing it. We're changing it. By me and others like me being there, we're adding the light back to this event that kind of got kind of dark with disclosure and all the conspiracy theories. We're shifting it in a new direction. It's going to be bigger this year than ever before, ever. And I want you there. I'll be speaking on Friday. I'll be speaking on Saturday. I'm trying to weasel my way into a couple of panels. Never know what's going to happen. And, we might have some late night conversations going on as well. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be right back at the bottom of the hour with more X Squared Radio. My name is Brooks Agnew. Thanks for showing up. I'm going to put the YouTube on break right now. And then we'll be right back after this.
Tell me about the waters of your homeland, Morty.
It is well known that the key to escaping the Matrix is purifying your consciousness. But our consciousness is bombarded daily with chemicals in the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink. This is why we are proud to bring you TFRwater.com, where you can get the Alexa Pure water filtration system. Unlike typical water filters, the Alexa Pure comes standard in stainless steel to keep your water free of BPA and dangerous chemicals found in plastic. This revolutionary water filtration system removes 99.999% of all contaminants, including fluoride, a dangerous neurotoxin added to drinking water, which was first used in Russian gulags to keep prisoners docile. This is standard without the need for expensive add-ons. The Alexa Pure retails for $199, but you can get $50 off by going to TFRwater.com now. Supplies are limited. 4 per person, please.
This is iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move.
When you have a great melody, a song will last forever.
Instantly connected.
I love it when the beat goes.
Did you know you can listen to Truth Frequency Radio on iHeartRadio? Just download the app to your smart car, smartphone, or smart TV and get the best of TFR wherever you are.
iHeartRadio.
I'll see you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
For millennia, mankind has been searching for answers to the big questions, such as, where did the universe come from? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone? And just what the heck is the Sasquatch all about? I can't promise you answers, and neither can the Woo Crew, but they invite you to join them Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, for Freaky Friday, exclusively on Truth Frequency Radio. Spirituality, multiverse, quantum mechanics, the occult, and so much conspiracy analysis that it will make your mind melt. Take my word for it. Freaky Friday. It's more than a show. It's a way of life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I am proud to be a Wookiee.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
I love my new bumper music. Isn't it great? I really like the bumper music, and it's cool because it's all, cool with YouTube, and they don't gig me all the time on it. I liked my old bumper music too, but this is good. Hey, I want to tell you about a good guy with a knife. Yeah, we don't usually talk about that here. We're big Second Amendment people here. I don't know if you've ever been in a knife fight. It's kind of up close and personal. But once you're in it, you don't really think about anything except winning. And there's a couple of ways to win. The easiest way is to, of course, get the knife away from the person with the knife, and then everything kind of settles down after that because I'm pretty big and I can restrain even pretty good-sized people. But still, I wouldn't go after somebody who's got it all together that has a knife. The only rule in knife fighting is that there are no rules, and there are no practice rounds. A 79-year-old London man who killed an armed home intruder with a kitchen knife acted lawfully, according to a coroner's inquest. The householder told police he had warned the intruder his knife was bigger than yours, but the attacker came at him anyway. Richard Osborne Brooks, it's one of the reasons why I zeroed in on this article, 79. By the way, if he's 79, he's definitely a World War II vet, so probably was trained in hand-to-hand combat. I'm just guessing. He was at home when Henry Vincent and another man broke into his London home. After an inquest, senior coroner Andrew Harris decided that the homeowner acted lawfully in defending himself and his property. The interaction that led to the stabbing, Harris said, was the simultaneous approach of the deceased with a small screwdriver and the forward movement of the householder with a kitchen knife, leading to moderate force being applied by the knife to Mr. Vincent's chest and its penetration. That's kind of antiseptic, isn't it? Perfectly British way of describing a knife fight. Osborne Brooks explained 2 men knocked on his door and pushed into his home. They demanded money, and one ran upstairs as the other shoved Osborne Brooks toward the kitchen. When Osborne Brooks grabbed a kitchen knife, the accomplice fled. But Vincent, 37, came down the stairs holding a screwdriver and said, "Get out of my way, or I'll stick you with this." The householder said he warned Vincent that his weapon was bigger than yours. I thought he would look at my knife and he would take the opportunity to run out the front door, which was open. He definitely didn't try to get out the front door. He came towards me, Osborne Brooks said. He said Vincent, whose cause of death was a wound to the chest, ran into his knife. A pathologist's tests showed Vincent had been using cocaine and heroin, and I would advise that if you're going to fight with knives, make sure you keep your eye on one thing: the other person's knife. Also, if you can see the other person is high on a pain-killing drug, you need to go for something vital immediately or get the knife out of their hands. That's sometimes tricky to do, but easier to get a screwdriver out of someone's hands than it is a knife, depending on if it's a straight blade or a Phillips head, right? I'm just saying, I'm a tool guy. So incidentally, you should know that there's very little pain in a knife fight. Cuts will make you bleed, and you can pass out from loss of blood even if you win the fight. Winners prefer a gun in a knife fight, but in London, there ain't no guns allowed. So for David Wilson, a criminologist and professor at Birmingham City University, here's the facts. The rise in knife crimes in England and Wales is a real issue, not a moral panic. It is also one we can't wish away, he says. Between September of 2017 and 2018, there were approximately 40,000 offenses involving a knife or sharp object in England and Wales, an 8% increase from the previous year, according to the Office of National Statistics. That number is likely underestimated, by the way, due to an error in data collection from one police force. just to give you an idea, if you're going to live in England, you're going to live in Wales, you better have a good knife, you better know how to use it, and you better have it handy. So I want to talk this hour about how to save the world in 5 easy steps. Yeah, I know. It's a good subject. Keep chatting in the YouTube chat room. It's good. I can kind of see it out of my left eye there. Looks like there's one shill in there. You know what? If you're going to be somewhere, you might as well be here and listen to what I'm saying. But we really don't like shills. Nobody does. But that's okay. We're not going to judge you. I once heard a story about a dad who was working at home one day. Things went well until his young son came home from school. As soon as he knew his dad was home, he came to see what he was doing, of course. At first, the dad was patient. But his son realized that if he didn't find something to occupy his son, he wasn't going to be ready for going back to work in the morning with the completed project. He was wise, though. He asked his son to bring him a magazine from the stack in the corner. He quickly thumbed through it and found a full-page image of the planet Earth. He cut out the page from the magazine using a pair of scissors and then cut it up into odd shapes, about 50 small pieces. Here you go, he said. This is a puzzle. This is a roll of tape. Go see if you could put this world back together again, said the dad. He resumed his task and thought he was in the clear for the next hour at least. But within what seemed only a few minutes, his son returned with the puzzle completed. Not annoyed, but amazed, the dad commented, "That is pretty amazing. How did you know how to put all those pieces together again that fast?" "Oh, it was easy," said the son. On the back of the page was the picture of a home. I just put the home together and the whole world fell into place. The point is that the loving personal relationships we have with one another are the force that can save the world from otherwise certain destruction. A home is not just a house. It is a bond between people. So I want to share with you 5 simple steps for forming those bonds and helping to save the world. Quantum physicists have proven that we are not just this physical body. I hope not. Mine's breaking down. I don't know about yours. Our presence doesn't end at our skin line. We are also energy. We're capable of commanding a large amount of energy or a small amount of energy. We're doing it all the time. But most of the time, we are unaware of the effect of our energy and what it's having on others. We don't pay much attention to how our use of that energy affects us as well. There is an energetic aura that connects us to other living beings and the universe around us. In fact, we should very soon come to the realization that we are connected to everything. Even God. Each one of us has a unique consciousness address in this universe and a unique aura, although it's ever shifting and changing shapes and frequencies. Those frequencies are the key to saving the world. In fact, it is the main reason why there are so many of us here on this earth at this time. The earth is getting ready to make a metamorphosis. And it needs us here in large numbers in order to accomplish that change. The higher frequency Earth is getting ready to leave this dimension and return through the rift in the Milky Way to its origin. I want you to be part of that Earth and not the one left behind in this dimension in orbit around this sun. When we culture the connection with the divine or higher energy, we grow in that direction. We grow closer to one another because of the harmony that occurs as we raise our frequency. Love and patience and creativity and peace are accompanied by joy. And joy is a greater form of happiness that is a gift of this state of vibration. When we are trapped in the solids of this world, like lusting after cars and houses and money, then we lower our frequency and are seldom satisfied with our existence. If we live in a state of fear and negativity and separation and fill our body with unhealthy substances, low vibrational food, too much alcohol, drugs, then our energy field becomes blocked, it becomes clouded, it becomes dark, lopsided, misguided. You see, our energy acts like a magnet. It attracts experiences in the world to match our energetic field, because we create our energy with how we treat ourselves inside and out. We are responsible for our energy and our life experiences. Life doesn't just happen to us. Rather, our outer experience reflects our inner state. So, here are some things we can do with the physical body to help create a place where higher frequencies are sustained. The first is, put that right there. The first is focus on your breathing. Now, I'm not going to run you through some breathing exercises here. That is not what I'm going to do. But you do hear a lot of people talk about this, but you don't have a lot of people actually with the right ideas about it. Many people don't know that whales and dolphins breathe consciously. That is to say, they probably don't have a large medulla, like we do in the back of our heads here, with automatic programming to run our breathing. We could pass out into a deep state of sleep, but we never stop breathing. The medulla has a program in it that tries to keep your blood oxygen content between certain limits, if you're not thinking about it. Even if you're not thinking about it. In fact, when we take conscious control of it, we can shift the frequency of the link between the spirit and the body. Now, this soul connection can result in powerful energies in the form of almost any frequency we wish, well into the shorter wavelengths of light. This is often called a light body. I can move my frequencies high enough to be seen on camera as nearly ultraviolet. Digital cameras are very good at picking up this color from me. Anytime you see a shot of me at any kind of conference where I'm teaching or in this state of being, it's funny, you see all these, white, black, brown, Asian, tan people, and then here's this purple guy. You go, wow, where did that color come from? It's the way I affect digital cameras. If you want to learn more about this breathing and the electrical connections you can make between your energy body and your physical body, just get my book, Remembering the Future. All the directions are in the back. It should lead you toward getting better at, or wanting to get better at, the Flower of Life meditation. Or better yet, you can come to one of my lectures at Contact in the Desert on May 31st, and you can learn this for yourself. The second thing that you can do to help save the world, and this one's pretty difficult, is to love yourself. I know it sounds kind of egocentric, but it's not. You are unique in the universe, and there's certainly no other exactly like you. If you are not able to love yourself, then you cannot love anyone else. It's just not possible. If you are worried about this, let me say that this is probably because you are concerned about how people love you. And a lot of people are, and that's okay, but I want you to stop doing that. Because let's just lay that aside. It does not matter how people love you. It only matters how you love others. I know it sounds a little hermitish at first, that you can go to a place where you work or to school or in your family. But if you love yourself and you begin loving others as yourself, don't worry a bit about them not loving you. That is not under your control. And if you spend your life trying to get other people to love you, you will be miserable. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Ask any actress, ask any actor who forgot who they really are, because they play characters, and fans love the characters, but they don't know who the actor is. You see, if they knew the actor, they might not love them. So, I want you to love others until you love yourself. So sit down at least once a year, like New Year's Day. That's a good day. That's when I sit down and do it, because it's just a good day. It's the beginning of the year. It's cold. Nothing's happening. All the streets are empty. All the stores are closed. Just sit down on New Year's Day. It's a good day to do it. But if New Year's Day is already passed, which it has already this year, then do it tomorrow. And don't put it off. I want you to write down all the things you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Include the classes you want to take, include the things you want to buy, everything, without money being an obstacle. Money is no object. Write down places you want to go that year. Write down everything, as long as it's something you can accomplish in a year. And it should be a list of at least 100 things. Then, when you can't think of anything else for the year, keep in mind this is not a lifetime bucket list. Then get 4 more pieces of paper. About 1.5 inches from the right edge of the paper, draw a vertical line from top to bottom. About 1.5 inches from the top of the page, draw another vertical line. Above the line on one page, put a capital A, and then the next one B, and the next one C and D. So you got A, B, C, and D pages. Now, from your list of things that you made, transfer only the things that are absolutely A-list to the A sheet, line by line. And then do the same thing with B and so forth. A being the absolute, definitely want to do this year. B, it would be nice. C, if I should happen to see it along the way. And D, if I got everything else accomplished and I have nothing better to do. That's the way you've got to treat this, okay? Now, in the column to the right of each item, that 1.5 inches that's over there on the right-hand side, write in the amount that this is expected to cost. Remember, money is no object, so be as accurate as you can guess. And then I want you to post this on your refrigerator or some other conspicuous space. Do not put this list into a drawer, because you're going to look at it every day. This is the act of ringing the bell in the future. You'll learn more about it in the book, but that's okay. If you like this list, you have taken a huge step toward knowing yourself and loving yourself, because you are going to start accomplishing the things on those lists almost immediately. And there are rules. A list first, unless there is a screaming deal, at least 50% less in cost for the stuff on the B, C, or D list. And you'll be amazed, absolutely amazed, at how much of the A list gets done in a year. Everything. Build the porch on the back of the house, trade cars, finish another semester of school, remodel the bathroom, remodel the kitchen. I mean, there are things, big things that people think they want to do and they don't make them as goals. Then the third thing is to take time to travel to your dreams. Now, this can be done every single morning. I don't mean getting on a plane and flying to Paris or flying to Tibet or Egypt. I mean each morning or each evening, whichever you like. Some people can only manage to do this once a week. They do it at church. They do it on the porch in a swing. If you don't have a church or a swing, then I suggest you make a sanctuary where you can live, so you can sit and breathe and meditate on 1 or 2 things on the list. You will very quickly get good at traveling to that place and doing that work. I like to focus on the work like I focus on building a sandcastle. I never focus on finishing the sandcastle. I focus on working on it. As it becomes clearer, you can raise your skills by focusing on the after event. In other words, if you're making a movie, visualize standing at the mic accepting the award for the film, right? The more regularly you do this, the more capable your hearing will become. Now that's a good question. What are you listening for? The things that will resonate with your dream. Could be an email, could be a job offer, could be a return phone call or a voice message, could be an invitation to lunch. Things will resonate with your idea. And whatever you do, take that idea with you. Take your dream with you every day. That's why you have the meditative time in the morning. That's why you travel there. See, sometimes people get up in the morning and they open the Bible and they read a couple scriptures. Why? Because it's a habit, because it makes them feel good. But you know what happens? You know exactly what happens. Sometime during the day, that day, something happens. Somebody says something. Some interaction happens that applies to that scripture you just read that morning in the Bible. I was just reading in Isaiah. I was just reading the book of Job. I was just read in Daniel or in Matthew or in, Romans. I just read about this. Why do you think that is? Because you're drawing that energy towards you. You can do the same thing by design. Each morning, take the time to meditate. Get up a half hour early if you have to. Go to bed a half hour early if you have to. Make this happen. And that sanctuary, put your favorite pictures there, your collectibles. Maybe you have a crystal bowl. Maybe you have some incense. Maybe you have a pillow. Maybe you have a poster. Maybe you have a tapestry. Make your sanctuary and go there every day and do this. And if it's not comfortable, make it comfortable. Get a potted plant. Play some soft music, something. Go there and do this, and you'll be well on your way. And then the fourth thing is to love others. Once you've knocked out a few things on the list, you will see a change coming about. You'll begin attracting others who are also loving themselves and making things happen in their lives. The old script you had of doubt and self-pity and weakness and excuses and failure, it's no longer going to be a part of your life. They will know it, and you will know it. And remember, this is unconditional love. Let me describe this to you. The best way to never be disappointed is to have very low or no expectations. Yeah. Remember, even Jesus had enemies. He loved everyone. It did not matter to him one bit that the Pharisees hated him. And you know what? It won't matter to you either. And this is a really important step toward changing the world. And the fifth has to do with cultivation. I want you to cultivate compassion. When our energetic aura begins to shift, our consciousness expands. Our nervous system neutralizes, and we begin to fully realize and experience a spiritual awakening. That's why 2018 was the year of awakening. That's why 2019 is the year of light, because this process is occurring around us. Things become possible that weren't possible before. Things you never thought you could do, you'll be able to do. A miraculous life unfolds right in front of you. And before long, you will look over your shoulder and you will see footprints. Those are your footprints. You moved. So we'll cover some more of this next Sunday. If you want to know more, you can read Remembering the Future. It's a good book, and I think you'll like it. We have a couple minutes left in this segment. I want to get started on this, the Convention of States. In North Carolina, we recently took a step forward. It came out of the Rules Committee. We already have been approved by Congress for trying to get through the Senate. This constitutional, the constitutional boundaries separating the three federal branches and setting outer limits on their power are barely visible anymore. We can see that going on in Washington right now with Nadler trying to subpoena the executive branch out of existence. Many Americans are turning toward Article 5 of the Constitution to restore those boundaries. Constitutional amendment is strong medicine, to be sure, but it is the medicine that our founders prescribed for the disease of federal overreach. That's what we're suffering from, Earth Explorers, federal overreach. And that is otherwise terminal to our republic. So there are 5 myths about the Article 5 antidote. I heard one just today, and I decided to write this down. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back right after this. You YouTubers, hang in there. And we'll be back with the final hour of X Squared Radio tonight. Don't go anywhere. More X Squared Radio coming after you, at you right after this. Don't forget the phone lines are open, 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998. We'll be right back after this.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Major plane accidents. What North Korea launched. I'm Evan Haining. Well, the death toll remains at 41 for that Aeroflot jet that returned to a Moscow airport and burst into flame when it bounced on the runway in an emergency landing. Aviation correspondent Richard Quest says it's not yet confirmed.
The rumor is that they were hit by lightning and they lost all automation. But they still managed to fly it for a further 20-odd minutes to get back into a holding pattern, which then begs the question, how difficult was that plane to land that there was such a bounce? I mean, you don't see planes bounce like that.
In Jacksonville, Florida, officials will take care when they remove the military charter jet that rolled off the runway and slid into a river last week. Spokesman Bruce Landberg says the NTSB wants to preserve the physical evidence on board the Boeing 737 as it investigates.
That will also allow us to get to the cockpit voice recorder, which is still in the tail of the aircraft and underwater.
A new satellite image obtained by CNN shows the smoke trail of Friday's rocket launch by North Korea.
The defense ministry here in South Korea has just come out and said they believe that that particular system is a new model. So suggesting that North Korea is actually trying to push itself forward and testing new models.
Correspondent Paula Hancock's. Well, there have been no Little Rocket Man tweets from President Trump about this launch. On ABC's This Week, Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders commented on the president's handling of Pyongyang.
This is one area, actually, where I do not fault Trump. I think the idea of sitting down with Kim Jong-un is the right thing to do. It is very, very difficult, but clearly they are a threat to the planet. They are isolated, they're demagogic.
The Friday missile test was North Korea's first since 2017 and follows a warm meeting between Kim and Russian President Vladimir Putin less than 2 weeks ago. I'm Evan Haining.
You're now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
By the way, tonight, X Squared Radio is simulcasting. That is to say, we are live on tfrlive.com. If you're listening to the audio only, there's a chat room going on there as well. Several loyalists are there. We also have a caller on the line I'll bring on in just a second. I think it's my old friend from Tell City, Indiana, because we just got done talking about manifestation, and he's a great and wise voice. Worked with him for a while and learned a lot from him. So we are also on YouTube Live. So there's a whole nother chat room going on there, and there's your personalities, and I'm trying to keep track of both of this and doing a fairly good job. So hopefully you are becoming a fan of X Squared Radio. We started broadcasting on YouTube Live in January. A few fits and starts trying to figure out the technology and get it going. We're still not great at it, but we're getting there, because I realized after 14 years on the air that a lot of people want to see me sitting in my office doing my thing. That's my little X Squared Radio sign right back there. You can see it. And you can see all my artwork in the bookcase as my backdrop for you guys. So let me go ahead and bring Ken on right now, because I think you'll enjoy his good voice, and he's been around the block when it comes to manifestation. We have similar great acquaintances in Enid VN and in clearing practitioning. So here we go. Ken, welcome to the program. How are you? Are you there, Ken?
Hey.
That's that voice.
Love your voice.
Well, how are things going in the land of old 33?
Well, you know what? I tell you what. You're so psychic and powerful that you can feel you have such a long fan base. You're a pioneer. That's what I think. As old days in 33. That reminds me of a beer.
Yeah.
It was Latrobe. Yeah. The old glass tanks of Latrobe. We tender this premium beer tribute to your good taste. And, the Kentucky Derby was just yesterday.
What a crazy race. I think it's the first time in history that the finisher, the front runner, was disqualified for cutting off the pathway of another horse. When has that ever happened? Never.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I was trying to parallel, because we all look to the outside sides of the inside, and we all do this. We divinate the outside to see the inside in the mirror effect, right? So I was like, what the hell is this going on? What's it? This is just my imagination, in the dance of intuition and imagination, like Joseph Campbell said. And I said, well, okay, what is this master security? What's it got to do with Trump, right? Right? What's going in my scripts of superstition projecting out? And I go, okay. And all of a sudden, that's going to win. And I go, oh, what's this one here called? Country Home or something? Country Home? So I'm looking at, philosophically, American Indian style of just, looking for omens and reading the tea leaves, right? From things that are important to me, like how do you tie politics and the mirror effect? And you do such a great job, Brooks, man. It's like cool. You can tell by the people that follow you, they're quite smart and they understand intention. And that's the best thing about you. You actually understand intention.
Well, I appreciate that.
But, I was looking at that. And I'm actually cool to say, you know what? Master of Security. I saw that as that's a good win for the Kentucky Derby, the best game of all games. The Queen will watch it, I show you. He's been there a couple of times, at least once, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, racehorses are amazing animals.
Archetypes, right? And that's why I was looking at it. Well, I said, no. Ha. That's it. Connect. And, try to explain the metaphor before the metaphor, and we all try to, that's what human beings do. We try to predict. I'm sure dogs and birds and crows and elephants do it.
Well, we are a people of contests.
What country home? Security. And I voted for Trump because I want country home. I really want country home. I want to know that the sheriff, right? I want to know that the sheriff can kick ass on the FBI. The FBI doesn't come in here and say, well, we can flip your switch on your sovereignty when it comes to the president, number one cat, because, smelly wall part. I'm better than you shit, hidden behind PC, twisted up Muslim Brotherhood, flip-flap, double standard is the standard, hypocrisies upon hypocrisies that I know I must be projecting from a subconscious in a past life or some bullshit dream. And I'm waking up from that shit, and I'm going, still seeing it from the middle of common sense. Somehow or another, it's all a journey, and I'm digging the journey. Being with you and your show is so rejuvenating and encouraging for me to step out. Because, dude, I haven't stepped out in years, but you inspire me to step out. I promise you. Thank you. You're doing everything you should be doing.
Yeah, I'm so far out, I can't find my way back to the porch.
I love you.
Well, I appreciate you, Ken.
Your,
You taught me a lot. You taught me a lot about sovereignty. You taught me a lot about clearing, about game sphere clear, and I still keep all that stuff in the forefront.
I no doubt. I love you, and watching your audience go here and there. Big hugs and much love to Brooks, and you say anything about China land on the other side of the moon? They say, ask Dr. That guy was there. He's there, right? Metaphysically in the abstract of prediction, and as I say, like Joseph Campbell. I love Joseph Campbell. I do. And you have followed your bliss in a very good example to us all. I love the fact that you have pioneered the radio, just such a great pioneer. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing the people that we reach. I remember the one night we ran the radio program out of Ken's office there in Tell City, Indiana. And I was going to run
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Right. And I was we were going to introduce people to clearing practitioners.
You were attracting so many heavy duties, man. It was amazing to me to watch you do your magic. I was going, this in your chat room, it says, I'm personal. And it's true. I love you. And I was looking at it, says, sales, and we market, and going to promote psychic abilities, going to make psychic abilities popular on your planet. Those were the old days when we talked like that, and now these days, just every cool kid talks that way. But back in those days, you could spend $1,000, $10,000, and make it leave $100,000 account by saying stuff like that back in the 90s. Like
yeah.
You were out as a pioneer, and you would offend people by telling them the truth. But now it's all the cool kids about it.
Well, I still offend people, but
right?
It's okay. Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Truth. You got facts to back it up, and the things you've said have become like only the cool kids, But the days you said it, it pissed people off, right? But cool kids know it now.
Yeah, that's true. But then someday it would come along, and they'd say, "Oh, wow, he was right," and then they realize I was telling the truth all along, and now we're shifting the axis of the Earth with a vast wave of consciousness.
Everybody knows.
Exactly. The old guard, the old establishment guard that bought and paid for this world and thought they owned it for thousands of years, they lost their grip in 2016. We awakened. We moved, and they couldn't catch us.
We studied the healthy man. There were many that did not want to study the healthy man. We studied cause. And there was a multiple, universal, and I know it too, shift. It was holographic was going on in experiments. And it was like, we didn't know because of free will. And we did cross over, that to be true. And there are you're like in a Lord level of awareness. I know you are, to understand and communicate in the book. It's just looking far out and seeing it before it happens. And bang! I hope that sounds good on the radio. It's the truth. Because you can see it. I love the fact that your audience gets exactly what you're saying. So me too. I could see it coming. And it did cross over. And you fucking have to, excuse my language, kids. You must love Trump. If you're a man of dignity and sanity, and you would say, I don't appreciate the believe in sanity. And I would say in terms of self-determinism to team determinism, and interdependence. Who does not want interdependence and passive income must be insane. I would not waste my time talking to them because they think they're bodies otherwise. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, who doesn't want interdependence and sovereignty and harmony? I mean, you'd be insane if you want racism. And you hear these people go, "I want the same gun." Excuse me, but
Well, you have to be insane to want
freedom
to.
and responsibility, because you have free will before and after bodies, and that's a common sense party. And I think that's the mainstream message of the day these days.
I just think people are happier.
As subtly as, hey, when your kid's 4 years old, he understands English, he can write his name on a chalkboard, say, "Thank you for being my soulmate. Thank you for choosing the location and space and time. Thank you for showing up." It's the most gentle and responsible way to explain the cosmos, and to restore dignity, which is sane. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree.
I do.
I just think people are happier when they're not abdicating their own care and feeding to someone else. When they're responsible for their own life condition, they're happier.
Well, you'll never get to interdependence without it. You've got to have the idea that, shit, come on, please. That's a dignity, number one. But, thank you for choosing me. It's a being. So, I know that you've been pushing, that's a lie. With the laying down, that's my passion. More passion will make you lie, but passion.
Oh, we're very Trump friendly here. I'm not so much of a judge of character, but I can judge a man by his enemies, and Trump definitely had the right enemies. So we supported him, we voted for him, and we have not been disappointed.
I was scared when it was put before me because I'm prudent. I said, I didn't like the way I saw it for quite some time before it. I turned off the television because it was bad energy, like a sewer in my living room, and I turned that shit off on purpose. Then they got back into politics after Trump got in. I go, I don't want to go back into the sewer again. But I got pulled in because this is history.
Yeah.
But something's going on, and the more I looked at it, I go, this is metaphysical.
Well, I try not to pay too much attention to the politics. I'm more focused on the government. Ken, I really appreciate the call.
That's an oddity. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you. Bye.
All right. I'm glad you're out there listening. By the way, I wanted to share something with you. You know what this is? No, you probably don't know what this is. This is episode 2 of season 1 of the Birth Trilogy. This is what a script looks like, all colorized for the various actors that are going to read, because the third Wednesday of this month we have a screen read at the Carolina Film Community, and also Tuesday, May 7th, we are airing the Birth Trilogy, the Birth series trailer. It's going to be awesome. We're doing it on the big screen. There'll be 100 or so people there. You should come down. It's at Dilworth's in downtown Charlotte. James Rink is going to be there. A bunch of other people are going to be there. You're going to have a good time, a good meal, get to meet and talk about and share the energy, and we'll make things happen. All right, I want to, I got enough time in this segment to cover these 5 myths of the Convention of States. An Article 5 convention is a constitutional convention. And this point can get confusing because Article 5 is a provision of the Constitution, so a convention held pursuant to its terms could be described as constitutional in that sense, but what most people mean when they describe an Article 5 convention is that it is the same type of gathering as the one in 1787 that produced the Constitution. And that implication is wrong. That's not what's happening. The distinction between the Philadelphia Convention of 1787 and the convention that we're going to have once we get enough states, 34 states together, and we submit this request to Congress, lies in the source of authority. The states gathered in 1787 pursuant to their residual powers as individual sovereigns, not pursuant to any provision of the Articles of Confederation for proposing amendments. An Article 5 convention mentioned in the Constitution derives its authority from the terms of Article 5 itself, and it is therefore limited to proposing amendments to the Constitution that we already have. We're not writing a new Constitution, okay? The second is we have no idea how an Article 5 convention would operate. Article 5 itself is silent to the procedural details of the convention, and that's why we have had now 3 conventions, and we have ironed out now the rules of the convention. All 50 states have delegates. All 50 states sent their delegates to those conventions. We had debate, but we also had agreement. And one of the things that we agreed on was the procedure for conducting the Article 5 convention. And there's a clear precedent for how these meetings work. In fact, many of the framers had attended one or more conventions, and the basic procedures were always the same. For instance, voting at an interstate convention is always done as states, okay, not individual delegates. Each state gets 1 vote. That's it. 1. 50 states, 50 votes. It doesn't matter if you have 100 delegates. It doesn't matter if you have 2. You get 1 vote. And that's a little bit dismaying for the larger states. One of the reasons why they don't participate. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if California and New York don't participate, even though they have the largest populations, because they only get 1 vote in this kind of constitution. The more detailed parliamentary rules of the convention are decided by the delegates at the convention itself. We've had 3 conventions already, not enough to make amendments, but we came together and we debated out those rules, and it is well published, and you can see how it works. The topic of an Article 5 convention cannot be limited, so convention delegates would rewrite the entire Constitution once they assemble. This is a big fear. If states weren't free to define the scope of an Article 5 convention, then America would have already witnessed many of them, but there hasn't been a single one of these because it isn't easy. The first thing you have to do is get all 34, the basic 34 applications, all have to agree. They all have to convene on the same topic, the same 6 amendments. Okay? Everybody knows what's going to be amended in advance. There are no Johnny-come-lately. There's no George Soros stepping in. There's no Queen of England stepping in. There's no billionaire going to step in and say, I want this amendment. There's no special interest group that comes forward and says, oh, I want, this amendment. Nope, that doesn't happen. It has to be on all 34 state applications in advance. All that is the rules of order. Congress would control an Article 5 convention. This is not true. If an Article 5 convention is requested and it is put in place, Congress is out. Congress is out. This is not a federal convention. This is a state convention. Anyone who's read James Madison's record on the Philadelphia Convention proceedings knows that the very reason the drafters added this in case of emergency break glass clause, this convention method of proposing amendments to Article 5, was to give the states a way to bypass Congress. They wanted to go around Congress. We don't want Nadler. We don't want Pelosi. We don't want any of the radicals, AOC, Omar, Rashida Tlaib. We don't want any of them involved. Congress is not involved. Oh, they can bellyache and they can scream and they can sue and put injunctions, but the Supreme Court will back this up. Okay? The states have their own express power to unilaterally propose amendments. It has never been done before. And the founders never intended, in fact, they wrote it so that Congress would not have control over both methods. Congress only has 2 powers related to the convention: to issue the formal call, setting the date and location of the convention once 34 similar applications are received, and to choose 2 methods of state ratification for any proposals offered by the convention. That's it. That's all their involvement. In fact, at least one federal court has definitely ruled that Congress cannot use any of its Article 1 powers, including its power under the Necessary and Proper Clause, to affect Article 5 procedures. The fifth myth is that the Article 5 convention process has no safeguards to protect our Constitution from rogue delegates or big money special interest groups. Well, to the contrary, this process is so well safeguarded. It is so practiced. It's so proven, incredibly difficult to invoke. There are numerous redundant safeguards on the process, specifically for that reason. First, the topic specific in the 34 applications that trigger the Convention Act as an initial limitation to it. But then there's another. After the convention, after the 34 states have the convention and the 6 amendments are proposed, then it has to go out to 38 states. It has to go out to 3/4 of the states to ratify any amendment proposed by the convention. This means that it would only take 13 states to block any ill-conceived or illegitimately advocated proposal. Article 5's convention process is part of the beautifully constitutional machinery that's built into it to protect the states and the people from an overreaching federal government, and it is time to use it. That's what an Article 5 convention is. If you want to know more about it in your state, because trust me, your state is involved, go to cosaction.com. That's Convention of States, cosaction.com. Somebody put that in the YouTube chat room. cosaction.com. Put the HTTP before it and it'll be a live link. And that is how you become involved. Does it cost anything? No, it doesn't. You get free emails. You get kept up what's going on in your state. But if you want to participate, you can be like me. You can be a state captain. And all the people in Concord coordinate with me, and we coordinate our action with the state. And anytime the state needs a bunch of bodies up there to, rattle the bleachers, then we send people up there. This is how it's done. This is how government is done. Forget about politics. I'm not talking about politics here. I'm talking about government. And who is government? You. Your government. You are government. Bypass the politicians, bypass Congress, and let's take this action. What's that? Oh. The most popular amendment right now among all 50 states, it has 67% support, is term limits. Term limits for Congress and the Senate. All those in favor? Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. These are common sense amendments that need to be made. Okay? There are others. A balanced budget amendment. The federal government cannot spend money more than it takes in unless it's in times of war. A declared war. What a great idea. No more deficit spending. Wow. That's a fantastic idea. How about an amendment of the Commerce Clause? The Commerce Clause is very vague in the Constitution. And who took advantage of that? All the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations. The whole other federal government that taxes us, fines us, puts us in jail, takes our stuff, writes all the laws. That government, we have no representation in that government. That's tyranny. That's tyranny by definition. And there are 655 of them. And each one of them have 10, 20, 30, 40,000 employees. Look at the corruption. Look at the money they consume. And can you get anything done? No. If you like the DMV, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The Convention of States would amend the Constitution to do away with the federal authority of all those agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations. The states would manage their own air. They would manage their own rivers. They would manage their own highways. All the things that the federal government took from the states, forests, parks, shrines, monuments, everything would be returned to the states where it belongs. And it would be managed better by the states than it is by the federal government. You don't need armed troops roaming the woods, arresting people for, camping. It's just stupid. It's ridiculous. States can do it on their own. All right, we have about 1 minute left in this segment. That's the Convention of States in a nutshell. I want to talk briefly about Trump's new immigration policy. And then I want to talk about how the tech giants are seeking to meddle in the 2020 election. Oh, you want meddling? I'll bring you meddling. We'll talk about it in the next segment. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this. We'll take a quick break. Let me get to the break screen. Here we go. See you in a few.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite feeds our body with the right nutrients to keep us healthy. Just listen to what Arthur has to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. And I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the Lime Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
I bring you a message few of you will be able to believe, a message I alone was able to read in the fires of the universe. I also bring you the means with which to save yourselves.
What are you selling, Mr. Snake Oil?
Bring your friends here.
My name's Jimmy, and every Friday and Saturday night, right here on True Frequency Radio, at midnight Pacific, straight out of Santa Cruz, California, I'm cooking up a fresh edition of Into the Microcosm. It's not just a show, ladies and gentlemen. It's an adventure. Every Friday and Saturday night. Your number one alternative to the alternative and the underground. www.tfrlive.com. Good times ahead. See you there.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR Frequency Radio.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever, or would it be asked you to come with. Tell me, will you wait?
I sometimes wish I could stay here forever with you. You're so nice to me, and you're such a pleasant place to be. Monday, Trump ordered significant new constraints on migrants seeking asylum in the United States, including fees for asylum applications and restrictions on work authorization. The move is the latest by the White House to bypass Congress and tighten immigration laws in an effort to curb an invasion and stymie the flow of migrants seeking asylum on the southern border. And these are coming from more than 100 different countries. So these aren't just, Hondurans and El Salvadorans and Guatemalans and Mexicans. In a presidential memorandum, which, by the way, has the force of law, along with enforcement actions, addressed to Kevin McAleenan, Acting Secretary of Homeland Security, and Attorney General William Barr, Trump directed that there be a fee set for asylum seekers filing asylum cases and migrants applying for work permits. Migrants who have entered or tried to enter the U.S. illegally, including those seeking asylum, would also be banned from receiving work authorization while their case is adjudicated. The order also requires that all cases in immigration court be settled within, and this is groundbreaking, 180 days. Currently, the length of time for a court appearance is 7 years. Who comes back? Nobody. It is not clear how the orders will be implemented. Trump gave officials 90 days to decide on regulations to accomplish the memorandum's aims. By the way, this goes around Congress. These regulations will come straight from the agency. Immigration courts have been overwhelmed with asylum cases as the number of migrants appearing at the southern border continues to surge. If the Democrats don't give us the votes to change our weak, ineffective, and dangerous immigration laws, President Trump said, we must fight hard for these votes in the 2020 election. That's why, one of the main reasons why you're witnessing the death of the Democrat Party. Globalists have marched millions of foreign citizens to overrun the American border in an effort to destroy the Trump administration. They've spent tens of millions of dollars each month running ads on radio, Facebook, and in the local newspapers of South America, telling people how to walk into America without waiting in line to do so legally. Trump this month issued a separate memorandum directing administration officials to crack down on immigrants who overstay their visas. This is easy. If you've ever traveled overseas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. To check into a hotel, you need your visa, you need your passport. To go to the bank, you need your passport. To get a chip for your cell phone, you need your passport. Once they see on your passport that your stay has expired, you'll be driven to the airport and deported. Just like that. You'll be deported. It's that way in China, it's that way in Turkey, it's that way everywhere. Not so in the United States. The number of migrants appearing at the southern border has ballooned in recent months. U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents encountered more than 103,000 inadmissible migrants at the southern border just in March. Just in March. Yeah. We don't have the number yet in April. We're going to get it. It's going to be higher than that. Agencies report being overwhelmed by the number of migrants that have begun to release after they are apprehended instead of keeping them in detention. Congress does not allow any more money for detention. They will allow more money for food and for diapers and then to release people into the country, but not for detention. Mr. Trump's also working with Mexican officials to have similar facilities built in Mexico to house the homeless migrants more than 100 different countries while they wait for their asylum judgment. All right. We've been waiting for this, and now I have the information on it. Meddling. Meddling was a big, big word in the 2016 election because the Russians meddled in our election. Well, as it turns out, yes, they did. They meddled in our election. But so did the British, and so did the Australians, and now those spying records are coming out. Halper and the Turkish CIA spy that tried to entrap Papadopoulos, all that's coming out. All that is now being revealed. And some people are going to go to prison. They're going to go to prison for the rest of their lives, and some may even be executed. Meddling. Well, I'm here to tell you, forget about Russia. Forget about Chinese spies. The key takeaways from the recent Breitbart News town hall entitled Masters of the Universe Big Tech versus Free Speech and Privacy focuses on Google and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube meddling in elections, censoring conservatives, and ignoring the privacy and security of their users. Oh, yeah. We're not talking anything light here. You see, the outcome of the 2020 elections, it depends on who gets out and votes, of course. But how do people get inspired to go vote? Turns out the outcome of the elections depends on the tech giants. Dr. Epstein, whose research has focused on the impact of each tech bias on voter choices, explained the massive, it's not small, it's a massive impact that the masters of the universe have on the democratic elections. Notice I didn't say Democrat elections. I'm actually talking about democracy here. We estimate that if these companies were all working together and supporting the same candidate and really pulling out all the stops and using all the methods they have to manipulate, they could shift 10% of the voting population of America with no one knowing that they had done this and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to track. 10%. 10%. That's not even close. That's so far over what it takes to swing the election. It isn't funny. The fact is, we don't know what rules they're applying. We don't know the algorithms. There's lots of evidence now that they are systematically suppressing political views that they don't like. And not just on the right, by the way, but progressives as well. They go after anyone they want to, and there's nothing we can do about it, and there's no recourse. Oh, sure. Yeah, of course we could sue. Absolutely, we could take court action. Good point. But after the election has already taken place. The new president's in place, right? If that president wins, he's not going to go back and undo the election. He's not going to go back and prosecute because of meddling. Only the loser does that. Loser. Capital L. Spelt CLINTON. Anyway, there are two main things that we have found, says Epstein. We came up with a monitoring system for monitoring search results on Google, Bing, Yahoo for nearly 6 months before the election in 2016. This story about how our findings was broken by the Washington Post in early 2017, and here's what we found. We found that Google's search results favored Hillary Clinton in all 10 positions of those search results on the first page for almost all of those 6 months leading up to the election. Now, that's enough to shift 2 to 3 million votes, at least, without anyone knowing that they've been manipulated. I'm telling you, it works. Today, I put in the word traitor into Google. You could do it yourself. Put traitor into Google. The first 2 pages were filled with 2 names. Every single article, 2 names. Guess who the 2 names were? That's one of them. Trump was number 1. Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden was the other one. When is the last time you heard Edward Snowden's name? A year? Year and a half? Yeah, those are the 2 names that come up. You can't find anything. The way this effect works is very simple. Favoritism for a particular candidate in election-related search rankings leads people to preferring that candidate. For example, a search related to an upcoming election might return results favoring candidate A higher than results favoring candidate B. That's called partisan ranking bias. Since people tend to click on and trust highly ranked results, more people will then trust and consume the information supporting candidate A. In turn, that consumption increases their preferences for candidate A. We also know very little about who is responsible for the censorship. We know that they have an army of 15, 20, 30, 50,000 soldiers that work inside, writing algorithms, searching content all the time, dividing it up, deleting accounts, banning content. And there are several proposals. One of the suggestions is that we should take Google's algorithm, make it a public utility. That's one of the solutions, continued one of the authors that wrote about this. It is an interesting idea, but I don't want the government involved in handling those algorithms either. What we should do is we should have alternatives. Facebook on Thursday banned from its flagship social network and its subsidiary Instagram a series of incendiary political figures. InfoWars, Alex Jones, Nation of Islam's leader Louis Farrakhan, a movie some critics scoffed at as belated, but that free speech advocates warn could raise thorny content moderation issues. The social media giant has drawn broad criticism from across the political spectrum over its attempts to curb harmful content, what it deems harmful content. Critics on the left have said Facebook and other tech platforms are failing to thwart what they call white supremacy. It's crazy, right? White supremacy. You ever heard of such a thing? Not in like 200 years. And those on the right argue tech's approach to content policing stifles free speech and disproportionately targets conservatives. Neither camp appeared quelled by Thursday's move, which the company said was to crack down on violations of its policy against, quote, dangerous individuals and organizations. Yeah, like it's just nutso. In nearly 100% of the cases, that cracking down was in the form of banning the account of the content provider. James Woods is a perfect example. He is followed by millions of people. He is clever. He's smart. He's current on the events. And if he retweets your stuff, it's a definite boost. They banned his account completely. In more than 96% of the instances, it was conservatives who were targeted. When they have no platform for free speech cannot occur. In the past 2 months, I have seen more films on Islamic courts flogging, beating, punching, and even shooting offenders of Sharia law. I have seen videos and workshops on how to properly beat your wife. I've seen children in a Philadelphia school learning to behead pets while singing songs about killing infidels in America. I cannot find a single link to a full speech made by the president. Not one. Twitter is leading the pack in targeting censorship. Of 22 prominent politically active individuals who are known to have been suspended since 2005 and who expressed a preference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, guess what? Of 22, 21 of them supported Donald Trump. Twitter removes an account because a user is thought to be engaging in a program of disinformation. For example, accounts allegedly run by agents of the Russian government that purport to identify with one side of the American political spectrum. Really? To exclude such spurious cases, I designed my own database to include only unambiguous cases of identifiable individuals or organizations from English-speaking Western democracies believed to be engaged in political advocacy in good faith. I counted individuals who were primarily known for their political activism, Milo Yiannopoulos and others, who are famous for other reasons, but who also regularly comment on politics, such as the actor James Woods. As my main interest in political bias within the U.S. political spectrum, I also included terrorists and other Islamic extremists such as ISIS supporters. Twitter debuted in 2006. I was there. Yet I could not find a single case of the company suspending or banning a prominent person before May of 2015. Now imagine that. What happened in April of 2015? Oh yeah, Trump announced he was running for president, and he was running his campaign primarily on social media. Now, while this may be due to deficiencies in reporting, it may also reflect Twitter's claim at the time that it was the free speech wing of the free speech party. What a bunch of crap. Also, as noted above, the 22 suspended individuals, only one of them was a Clinton supporter. This was the actress turned activist Rose McGowan, who temporarily lost her account in 2017 for posting someone's private phone number. That's not because she said anything bad, which she does. It's because she violated the privacy protocol. The platform does not seem to have suspended any prominent Clinton supporter based on the substantive content of his or her expressed views, which are almost always name-calling, hateful, vile lies. Now, a lot of people think, well, Twitter's free, Facebook's free, YouTube's free, I can participate. You pay. You pay with your personal data. You should know that. Now, me, as a public person, I could care less about my personal data. You want to come find me? My door is right there. I'm not afraid of you. You come, we'll talk. If you want to do something else, we'll do something else. My personal life is right out here, right here. I'm looking at you straight in the eye right now. But the average person wants to maintain their privacy. Selling our info is the correct answer, and that's what we're here to talk about. You guys are not the consumers. You guys are actually the product, okay? You guys are being sold, and it's being done completely without your permission. Never in the history of the American Republic, and I mean the Western world, have so few unelected people achieved so much power and so much influence in such a short period of time. And they've done it almost entirely without your knowledge and without the free flow of information. They know where you are right this minute, and yet we don't even know their names. Do you? Epstein also highlighted how far Google goes to collect user data, including reading drafts of your emails before they've even been sent. All Gmails, not Yahoo, but all Gmails outgoing, the ones you write and incoming, no matter what email service they're coming in from, they're all recorded. They're all analyzed. Every detail is put into your personal profile. Big news companies use Google to run their email system. All those emails are running through Google servers. Google has full access. And I'm talking about some of the top journalists in the world who are investigating Google. They're sharing all their communications, all their work products, all of their drafts. They're sharing it all with Google. I don't know any major media source except maybe, some of the big newspapers that doesn't run emails through Google servers. I don't. My emails go another way. I use my own server to reroute my emails. There's a ping in between them and me. But you can't afford your own server. It's $1,500 a year to run that server in the firewall. You don't have that kind of money. You don't run a business. I do. You see, the thing is, a free and open internet, which is what we believed we had all along, is a threat to the mainstream media. And this is why mainstream media gatekeepers like CNN, and they're the most militant in their efforts to strip social media platforms of their disruptive power. They are the people, after all, who are being disrupted. So the internet is so important for getting news, No one would even know what is going on in South Africa if it wasn't for the internet. We would not know. In fact, that's the only time I've ever been banned on Twitter, is for reposting an article about racial killings of white South African farmers. I was banned for that. I was banned for reposting an article from South Africa. I pulled the article and I got my account back. Does that stop me from talking about Ramaphosa, who has authorized rogue black gangs from going to white farmers and killing them and taking their property, eating all their animals, eating all their farms and their seeds, and pooping in the wells? No, it doesn't stop that a bit. I will continue to talk about it. It's called seizure without compensation. All right, last thing, I want to talk about the hypersonic war. Wednesday, that's just a couple days ago, U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, we know them as DARPA. They're huge money behind a lot of things, movies and films and educational products, and also what are called rapid deployment programs. The director of it, Stephen Walker, said the top secret military research agency is working with the Air Force on the development of 2 hypersonic weapons, the Tactical Boost Glide and the Hawk C. Now, they're very different concepts, but you're talking about hypersonic weapons. It's good to have what I consider intended redundancy, because it's a hard technology, making materials and propulsion systems that last at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not easy. Now, Walker said there's a slight probability the hypersonic weapons could fly in the first quarter of 2020. That's like right around the corner. But he was overly optimistic that the test would occur this year. Let's see. They started researching this in 2012, but that was under regular budget. Now they're what's called a rapid deployment. And the reason that they go rapid deployment is so that they can take it off budget. The advantage of hypersonic weapons is not just the speed, it's also the unpredictable trajectory and the range. And the reason that we're doing this is because China, Korea, and Russia have all been sporting hypersonic anti-ship weapons that can fly at low altitudes. So we're basically talking a cruise missile that can putt along at about 600 miles an hour, 40 feet off the water, totally undetectable by radar. As soon as it hits the horizon, it accelerates to 3,000 miles an hour, and it crosses the 8 or 10 miles from the horizon to the ship in about 15 seconds. That is not enough time for the current defense system we have, which is called Aegis, to fire a defense. Aegis is almost purely kinetic. That is to say, it fires bullets like from a Gatling gun. And what it hopes is that somewhere in the rain of bullets, the bullets rip through the skin of the missile and tear it apart. But when it's flying at 3,000 miles an hour, you have 15 seconds. And if you fire one missile, the Aegis turns toward that one missile, you have 2, 3, 4 missiles coming, your aircraft carrier is gone. It's gone. They could sink your entire fleet in 20 minutes. So that's the importance behind it. And that's why it's important. That's why the rapid deployment. It takes the budget constraints out of the way, and if they choose to use a hypersonic cruise missile and an aircraft carrier from 50 miles away and goes hypersonic 10 miles away, your aircraft carrier is toast. There is no defense against it. I have one more story about the automobile glut. We're not going to be able to get to it tonight. I'll push it to next week. It's important that you know this. Could be some good deals in there for you. But it's also a little dangerous to the economy. Being in the automotive business myself and having seen gluts before, I've seen 4.5 months inventory sitting out there on farms everywhere all over Middle Tennessee. It's not fun. It's not fun when you think, oh my gosh, these cars might not sell in the showroom. These cars might be a year old before they hit the showroom. It's a big panic, and we're at big panic time. I want you to go out and look for the good in other people and help it to grow a little every day, because as you do that, you're going to help save the planet. This is X Squared Radio. I'm Brooks Agnew saying peace, Earth Explorers. Have a great time out there this week.